Hello, friends. Now, second test match between England and New Zealand will be starting from at the ground of Edgbaston, and I will be giving my complete preview about that match in my next video. I will give the link of that video in the description here. But before talking about the next match, let's have a look. Let's analyze how the first test match went. Now, as I told in my preview video also of the first test match, that New Zealand will have the upper hand in this match. And this is how this match went. For almost 5 days, New Zealand had the upper hand, and England in the end were batting to save the match. And ultimately, the match ended in a draw. And I think the main reason this match ended in a draw and New Zealand couldn't convert it into a victory was that day three was completely washed off due to the rain. Otherwise, New Zealand were in a driving seat, and if they had got that extra day, they would have given a much bigger target, and they would have had more time to get England players out, and they would have attained the victory. Now, I noticed that some of the analysts were saying that England should have went for the target which New Zealand which the target which New Zealand set for them of 275 runs in two sessions on day five. But I think England was correct in not going for the target because if you look at their lineup didn't have any one day or T20 players. Their batsmen were all defensive batsmen. They didn't have any Ben Stokes, Josh Butler, Bairstow, Moeen Ali, or Sam Curran to push the run rate. So I feel if England had gone for the victory, then they would have lost the wickets and also the match. So that was the correct approach by England to play safe and go for a draw. And I would say that I was also a bit baffled by the New Zealand approach on day four in the last session. They had to set a target. They had a lead of 100 runs, but they batted really slow in the last session. I know that England bowlers were bowling well, but New Zealand batsmen should have taken the initiative. I felt that they missed out on 40-50 runs. Maybe if they had batted faster, they could have declared a bit earlier on day five, like you can say half an hour or 45 minutes earlier. And maybe the end result of the match would have been in New Zealand's favor of a victory. But if we see now how this match went and what were the positives and negatives both the teams can take out from this match. So let's start with the England. The positives, one of the positives I would say for England would be the batting and form of their openers, because their openers have not been in a really good form in the India-England series. But this time, Rory Burns made a very good century. He came back to form, and then Dom Sibley also made an unbeaten half century in the second innings. So that would give some satisfaction to England team. And then second positive, I would say, is the performance of Joe Root. Joe Root got starts in both the innings, but couldn't convert it into a big score. He got 40 and 42 runs in the two innings. But I think these are good signs for England. Maybe in the next match, Joe Root can convert that good start into a century also. So I would say that were the two positives for England. And talking about the negatives for England or something they need to work on or maybe worry about, first of them is the suspension of Ollie Robinson. Now, Ollie Robinson has been suspended from international cricket for some tweets he made around 8-9 years back. And I would say this is really unfortunate for Ollie Robinson. Maybe he is also a bit unlucky here. I feel that decision is a bit harsh, and I just hope that the suspension is not for too long, maybe for one or two matches, because the time limit for suspension is not yet declared. That will be decided. Because Ollie Robinson was their best bowler in this match. He took 7 wickets. And if he hadn't played, maybe New Zealand would have scored 450 runs in the first innings, and they could have won by a much bigger margin instead of a draw. And the second thing to worry about, I would say, for England is the form of Stuart Broad. Stuart Broad didn't take much wickets in this match. He also gave away a lot of runs. And he has not been in good form even in the past few matches. Even in the matches he played in India, he didn't take many wickets. So, and he is their frontline bowler, their main and experienced bowler. So, Stuart Broad needs to take wicket. It remains to be seen if he plays in the second match or not. I think he will play. And then another negative or something to worry about is definitely their batting. The failure of their batsmen like Zach Crawley, Dan Lawrence, and also their new wicketkeeper batsman James Bracey. None of them looked comfortable, especially Zach Crawley. He failed in both the innings. Lawrence and Bracey got only one chance and they couldn't do much in that inning. Now, talking about New Zealand, the positives for New Zealand in this match, first of all, is definitely the performance of their debutant and new opener, Devon Conway. His double century and the way he batted, the chanceless inning he played. And in New Zealand, will be hoping that he continues his form in the second match also. Then Henry Nichols also made a very good half century in the first innings. He was also batting well in the second innings. So form of Nichols is also a positive thing for them. Then I would say another positive for New Zealand is that all their three pacers took wickets in this match. They were looking in good flow and performed well. Tim Southee, Kyle Jamieson, Neil Wagner, all of them, their pace attack looked better than the English pace attack. And negatives for New Zealand from this match, something which they need to work on or worry about. First of all, is the form of Kane Williamson. He failed in both the innings, and now people are also talking about whether he is a good enough player in overseas conditions because he scores heavily in New Zealand. But his performance in test matches in overseas conditions has not been really good. So it remains to be seen how he performs in the second test match. He has something to prove now to his critics. And then I would say, just like England, New Zealand also has something to worry about in their batting because Conway scored a double century and Nichols also scored a half century, but Conway is not going to score a century in every match. Other batsmen also has to contribute. Ross Taylor played a cameo in the second innings, but their other batsmen, especially their wicketkeeper batsman, Watling, I would say New Zealand need to assess his performance as a batsman. I know he would be retiring after WTC final and there are emotions involved. But his performance, not only in this match, but in the last 1 to 2 years, has not been that good as a batsman. He has not contributed much as a batsman. So maybe if they can play someone else, a specialist batsman, because Devon Conway is also a wicketkeeper. So as Conway has made his debut, Conway can play as a wicketkeeper and Watling can be rested from the second match. And then I would say also the performance of Santner, because Santner neither took wickets and nor he made any runs. And then Colin D. Grandhome also, he also didn't took any wickets. But I would say that Grandhome, they would stick. But maybe in case of Santner, they can look for other options because Santner doesn't have a good record as a bowler.